In this video, I'm going to discuss banking, also known as bank feeds. You see, understanding this one area of QuickBooks Online will ensure your success. Stick around. I'll show you how. Welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, my name is Jim, and I am a QuickBooks Certified Advanced Pro Advisor. I've been doing this for about 20 years. I post videos on a regular basis that will help you understand QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Desktop better. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and feel free to share it with those who might be interested. As well, leave me a kind comment in the comment section below. Okay, let's jump right in. We are talking about QuickBooks Online Banking and why this feature is so important. And when you first log in, you're greeted with this is called the dashboard. You see the name QuickTrainer here in the logo. Please understand, this is not QuickTrainer financial data. It's not any client data. This is just purely test data. So I'm not violating any confidentiality rules and laws, etc. And we're talking about banking right here. Yours may say something like transactions, and then when you hover over it, it'll say banking, but just know you can still click right here on the word either banking or transactions. Now, first of all, what is banking? Okay, so banking is simply when within QuickBooks Online, you make a conscious decision to connect your bank and or credit card accounts together. You link them, and what happens is it polls your bank, it being QuickBooks Online, polls your bank on basically a 24-hour basis, and it says, is there anything new here? And if so, bring it in to this screen that we're looking at right here. Make sense? And once it brings it in, again, you can connect bank accounts, credit card accounts, line of credit accounts. But in any case, it brings it to this screen, and then you're presented with, well, at the most, 3 different outcomes for the most part. There may be an exception to that, but for the most part, you're presented with 3 different outcomes. And let me show you what those outcomes are. The first outcome is you may see something like this. You don't see anything in green that says rule or confirm or 1 record or 2 records found. All you see is this, okay? And I will be the first to tell you that when you look at the payee column and the category or match column, it may or may not be right. So don't freak out. These columns are the payee QuickBooks Online is attempting to assign to it, and sometimes it's right. And this column is the general ledger account that QuickBooks Online thinks it should post these transactions to. And again, it may or may not be right. Then you get into transactions like this, where it says rule. All right. So let me say this. QuickBooks Online, there's no doubt that these transactions cleared your bank account. QuickBooks Online is presenting them to you in the banking, but it says, I can't find this transaction in QuickBooks Online already. So therefore, you must tell me what to do with it. When we get down to these that say rule, it means that a rule has been applied. Now, what's a rule? Well, let me click right here and show you what rules are. So this is a list of the rules that have been created for this test account. And so a rule says, for instance, Google AdWords. It says the name, and let me move this, the name of this rule is Google AdWords. Yes, I recommend that you name the rule something logical to you. It could be anything you want it to be, but might as well make it logical. And then it says, all right, but if you see bank text that contains the word Google, or if you see a description that contains add CC, then know that that's Google. Okay. Know then that it's an expense and that it should be posted to advertising and promotions. The payee should be Google Ads, and let's put a memo in it that says Google AdWords. Okay. Now let me show you one more. What's another good one? That Starbucks. Let's do Starbucks. So this one says, all right, the name of the rule is Starbucks. The description contains Starbucks. Therefore, treat it as an expense. And I say expense as opposed to a transfer, which it certainly is not. A transfer would be you're transferring money from one bank account to another bank account, typically within the same banking institution. Or it's treated as a check. Well, it's not a check. And why? Because a check only refers to a hard check, meaning a check with a physical check number on it. You know the ones. They're paper. They have your routing number at the bottom, your account number, etc. So we're going to treat this as an expense and post it to this account called Travel and Entertainment Meals. All right. Put the payee Starbucks in it and put a memo in it that says business meal. Okay, so that's rules. So the rules come into play when A, QuickBooks did not find the transaction in QuickBooks Online, so it therefore applies this rule to it. And then we move on to transactions that it found in QuickBooks Online. So in this case, this one says one record found. This is for Sendow. And this one down here says there's 2 records found. Well, why? Because there's two T-Mobile transactions that cleared the bank. And if I click once on this to expand it, I can see here are the 2 possibilities. Well, in this case, it doesn't matter. They're both identical on the same date, but there really were 2 transactions for T-Mobile. Maybe one was one business partners and the other one was another business partners, but they renewed on the same date for the same amount. All right, making sense so far? All right, let me tell you what you do not want to do. You do not want to go in and just start clicking add. Why? Well, first of all, this may or may not be the right general ledger account. So a conscious decision needs to be made. And if we were to add this transaction right now, let me just click on one. Right now, there would be no payee assigned to this transaction. There would be no memo other than the memo that comes from the bank. And that's not the memo we're looking for. We are looking for memos that describe what is this transaction. Okay? What is this transaction, so that 3 months from now, when you're wondering, or anytime you give folks like me, an accountant, or your CPA, or somebody who is looking over your financials, you want us to be able to look at those financials and know, what was this transaction for? Was it a business meal? Was it office supplies? Is it a brand new computer? Did you buy a new vehicle? Etc., etc. All right. But best practice, again, best practice says you put a memo in all transactions. No ifs, ands, or buts. Please hear me on this, okay? Because I see so many times where clients and new clients fail to do this, and it's, well, I get on my soapbox about it because it can help. It only helps and it does not hurt whatsoever. All right. So again, do not just start adding. So if we were to take First Watch, for example, I am always, and you should be too, we are always looking for opportunities to create more rules. Okay, why? Well, because it's going to save you time, lots of time in the end. It's also going to build consistency when you use rules. It's going to ensure that A has a payee, B has a good memo in it, C is an expense, not a check, etc. All right, so let's look for our rule opportunities, and I'll just take First Watch. So I click on this once, I come down and I select Create a Rule. All right, let's get this out of the way. And I like to just typically, I will copy this and then paste it up here. And then I'm going to treat it as an expense, and I'll make sure it goes to meals. See meals. And I'm going to put in a vendor of First Watch. Now, First Watch, QuickBooks Online did not find anything called First Watch, so it says add. And then they are a vendor as opposed to a client. I'll click Save. Now, this is not the first time I've seen this happen, where I entered it, it's right there, I click on it, but it's not filling it in. To me, that's called a software bug, but I just kept doing it, and it eventually puts it in there. All right, here is where I'm going to put my memo that says business meal. Now, you want to make sure that this auto add is not turned on, The reason is, if you turn this on, it's not even going to present you with this transaction. It's just going to go ahead and add the transaction and take it off the screen. Well, that sounds like a good thing, right? But if you're early on into this, I would rather you be presented with every transaction. Okay? So we're going to leave that off, and I'm going to click Save. All right. So now if I scroll down here, you're going to see that the transaction First Watch, it's in here somewhere. Right there. And if I were to click on this once, what you would see is that there's a name First Watch. It's posted to Business Meals, and it has a memo that says Business Meal. Now, what are these tags? It's another way of searching for stuff. Like, if you put meal in there, you could do a search on tags for the word meal or office supplies. And I honestly haven't been using them. Don't have any clients that are using them as of this point. And then you have another field in here called customer or project. Sometimes there may be a need to assign customers or projects to an expense. Maybe you just want to know, how much did you spend on that customer, or maybe you're doing what's referred to as job costing and you need to understand what the expenses are. So at this point, if I were to click add, we're just fine to do that, no problem. Okay. So again, I would encourage you, get into the habit of looking for rule opportunities, because there's a good chance that once you create the rule for the first one, that transaction is going to appear again down the road. We all tend to have these fairly consistent spending habits. To see Sirius Radio on there twice is not a surprise. Just the various transactions that you see, you want to create rules for those. And again, I encourage you, don't get lazy in this area. All right, so what if we do have a one-off transaction? Let's say that we have Progressive. Okay, now I know Progressive would probably repeat itself. That's insurance, I think, typically. But if I wanted to, because I didn't think I would ever have them again, I can come in here and go ahead and enter it from here. All right, this goes to auto insurance, auto and truck insurance, and auto insurance. All right, I can do that. That transaction's fine, but I'm telling you, I wouldn't get in the habit of doing things like that. I would look for rule opportunities. I will also tell you, if we're talking about money received, let me just sort by this column. And by the way, you can sort by these various columns, by date, by description, by category or match. And in this case, I'm going to sort by received. And one more time, when you see, this rule is going to apply probably 98% of the time, but when you see money coming in and you know that it's money that a customer has given you, right? These three right here, those are returns. Those are returns. 2 from Amazon and 1, I don't even know what that's for right there. But this is income. okay, from a client. So if I don't see the word match or something indicating that it found that record, I do not want to go ahead and add that. Now, there could be some cases where you could set up a rule for this. If you're one of those customers, and they're kind of few and far between, but if you're a client that doesn't create invoices or sales receipts, they get money, they go directly to the deposit and they put it in, yeah, you could go ahead and create a rule to say, if you see mobile deposit, then do this with it. But for the most part, my experience has been most of my clients, they do create invoices, or at the least they create a sales receipt, and therefore they have a match. They have a matching deposit for these, and you want to make sure that's the case. But for these, you can see there's already a rule built in that says, look, if you see Amazon and it's money going into the account, then do this with it. And we put it to ask my accountant in this rule, which is a temporary holding place, but at least gets this transaction in. And then one can go off and do the due diligence to say, okay, what was this return for? Was it for office supplies? And if you find that before you click add rule, you can go ahead and change it right here to say office supplies. No problem in that whatsoever. Okay? At least the rule got everything started for you. It got a vendor in there. It got a default general ledger account to post it to, and it has the memo return. Okay, so I'm saying you wouldn't even have to go off and find out what the return is for. You could go ahead and add them and then look at a report showing everything that's in Ask My Accountant, and it would be waiting for you. But you could at least go off and start your reconciling process. So if I wanted to accept that one, I could. And again, I just want to emphasize this. This one here, I can go ahead and click match. I can do this. I could even take it a step further and say, okay, anything that's got one record found, or it's got match, or it's got a rule, I can go ahead and click those off, and I can go ahead and click accept for those. All right. Now, what is the excluded for? So excluded is occasionally you may have a transaction that is already in QuickBooks Online, but for whatever reason, QuickBooks Online is not finding a match for it. I've seen it happen. It doesn't happen very often, but if you know that it's in QuickBooks Online already and you don't want to enter it again because it would create a duplicate, you could then click this and say exclude. All right. Now, when you click exclude, it actually would list all the transactions you've excluded. Now, in this case, no transactions have been excluded. What is categorized for? Well, categorized shows you transactions that you have accepted from the For Review tab. So these are all the transactions that have been accepted. Okay. And then for review means just that. They're waiting for you to decide what do you want to do with these. So, for instance, well, I've probably taken it far enough. Okay, I think you get the idea. This is going to show you up in here. And if you had other accounts connected, you would have another window here, maybe another window here. And it's showing you what the known bank balance is. Okay, now bank balances do not include pending transactions, okay? Therefore, QuickBooks Online is not going to bring in pending transactions at the bank. Not until it's a committed posted transaction at the bank will it show up on this screen. And then this is your balance in QuickBooks. Now, especially in banking accounts, it's not unusual for these balances not to match. It's probably more common that they're somewhat in close proximity if you're doing things right. But why wouldn't the balances match? Well, there could be deposits, there could be checks, there could be transactions in QuickBooks Online that are legitimate, but the bank doesn't yet know about them. Okay, so that makes the balance be different. There could be transactions that the bank knows about, but have not been put into QuickBooks Online already. And here's a perfect example. These are not in QuickBooks Online already. They're only in my banking screen. Now, real quick, because I know this video is running a little long, but this is important stuff, okay? Hear me, this is important. If you master banking, your accounting life gets so much easier. Why? Because again, you're building consistency into transactions. You're finding easily and confirming transactions that are already in QuickBooks Online. And there's more. Every time I click add on one of these, or every time I do this and knock out a bunch of them at one time, QuickBooks is also putting a check mark on that transaction in the reconciling screen. Okay, so let me go there real quick and then we'll wrap this up. I'm going to click on the gear. I'm going to go to reconcile. Resume just means there was a reconciliation in process. So I'm going to click resume, and this is what I want to show you. This is important, okay? When transactions come from the banking area, from the bank feeds, you get this icon, and that's what it means, that these came from banking. These are great. These are good. This is what you want. You can also see it has a check mark already in it. Why? Well, because there's no doubt it cleared the bank. All right. Now, depending on what date I enter in my ending date, it's not going to show me transactions after that date. However, you could have, this is the date the transaction was dated in QuickBooks Online. Okay. And it's not unusual that they could be very different. For instance, you write a hard check to somebody, maybe it was written 2 weeks before it actually cleared the bank. That person didn't get that check to the bank, for 2 weeks or even longer or sometimes shorter. So one of the things you can do is you can sort by clear date, and this will show you the date it actually cleared the bank. Okay. Now, if I scroll down here, I don't have any in this case, but you could sometimes have a transaction that was written in the date in which you're reconciling, but doesn't clear until the next month. If that was the case, those transactions would not be checked off. If they are, you need to uncheck them because, these are February transactions. There's no way if it cleared in March that these would be on your reconciliation statement because your statement would have closed. Typically, a bank statement closes the last day of the month, maybe on a Friday if the last day of the month was a Saturday or Sunday. All right, makes sense? All right, I think that's going to do it for this video. And I hope you've learned something from this. If you have questions, if you have comments, leave them in the comments section below. I will try to respond to it. I can't always promise that I can respond to all. And a lot of times, your questions spark new video ideas. So you may see your question answered in another video. All right. Hope that helps, guys. Well, that's all we have for this video today. Again, I hope you found this very useful. If so, please give it a thumbs up below. And by all means, subscribe and share this video with a friend or a colleague that you think you may find it useful. Other than that, I hope you look forward to my next video. Have a great day.